Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Finn McGwyre YouTube channel, and today you can see that I'm holding my handheld mic, and that can only mean one thing. That we are talking about another relaxed performance today. Yes, that's right, we are back again, and this time we're talking about the Newsies relaxed performance that I was very kindly invited down to Wembley to see on the 26th of March, I believe. So I just want to preface this by saying a massive thank you to Newsies for inviting me down. You know, it's a massive privilege to come down and visit, just so I can give everyone a bit of an insight of what it's like. Before we get on with the video, I just want to say, go and drop a follow on the @finnmcgwyre TikTok. I'm going to be posting over there a lot over the coming weeks, even though I haven't posted on there a lot yet, but it's going well so far. So yeah, go and follow Finn McGwyre on TikTok, and whilst I'm self-promoting, go and subscribe to Finn McGwyre on YouTube as well. It's not hard, it's just down there, the subscribe button, so that'd be very much appreciated. But anyway, on with the video. So first of all, what is a relaxed performance? Well, for those that don't know, a relaxed performance is like a special type of a performance where it's toned down a little bit. The regular theatre environment can be a bit overwhelming and overstimulating for people. So it's just, with a relaxed performance, it's a lot more accessible. You know, maybe the lights are dimmed, maybe it's a lot quieter. Just all those little things and those changes that can be made to open a show to a wider audience of people and give those people the chance to watch it. It's something that in the theatre industry that's been becoming a lot more prominent in the last few years. So it's really nice to see even, you know, no performances like Newsies, even though it is temporary, it's nice to see that they're still, you know, giving the time for a relaxed performance. So all those people that may not have been able to see it have now had an opportunity to do so. You know, hopefully they might be able to fit in another one before they close, who knows. So with Newsies, it is an immersive production, meaning that you've got a cast running all around the theatre throughout the show. You know, you're really meant to feel like you're in the world of Newsies. You've got seating on 3 sides of the stage show, from the front and from either side. You know, you can get a completely different experience from wherever you're sitting, really. And of course, that kind of causes the problem, because you're like, well, how are they going to make this more relaxed? Because you're meant to feel like you're part of it. So that was something that did concern me a bit going into it, especially with where, you know, all the light placements are and everything around the top, because they've got to light it from so many different angles because of where people are sitting. There will be times where you've got light shining right in your face, but that's something we'll go on to talk about later on in the video. So prior to arrival, Newsies did send out a sensory story to all the audience members, and actually I've got one right here. This is like Blue Peter. Here we go. So here's one I made earlier. I didn't make it, it was actually from the theatre, but this is the sensory story that they sent out. It just gives a little insight into what to expect from the show, what to expect from the venue. Unfortunately, the photos of the venue, especially the foyer, were from before Newsies opened there, so it does look a little bit different now, but of course it's better than nothing. But yeah, it just gives you a little insight in what to expect scene by scene, what will be happening in those scenes and all of that kind of thing. And it's a really good, solid sensory story. The only thing I would change is that I would like it to talk a little bit more about what you'd be feeling in each scene, rather than just, you're gonna, you know, this is what will be happening. But overall, it is very, very solid. So well done, Newsies, for that. That was very helpful. As well as this, it is described in all emails that are sent out to the audience, that if you're sitting in certain sections, more specifically the sections at the side, it is very hard to leave the auditorium if you need to any time in the show. So if you feel like you are going to, whether that's to go to the toilet or whether that's to, you know, just go and chill for a bit outside of the auditorium, then, you know, if you sit on the front facing section, then it makes it so much easier. And they gave the audience the opportunity to change the seats that they've booked to sit in more accessible seats for them. So we arrived at the theatre, and I do have to unfortunately admit that I was a little bit disappointed at first. You know, the foyer didn't look much different at first glance. I struggled to tell it was a relaxed performance unless you booked it knowing it was a relaxed performance. The lights were still bright. There were lights, really bright lights above the bar, which easily could have been turned off. They're completely unnecessary. Of course, you know, I'd understand why you're not able to dim the actual lights that are lighting the place. You know, that's understandable. But those lights above the bar, they were way too bright. There was still music playing as well, and it was just busy. And of course, you know, you can't really change that with the way that the Newsies theatre is, the Troubadour Theatre. It's an old television studio. It's all a very, you know, the foyer is very open. You've not got multiple different levels as you will do with West End theatres. It's going to be harder to, you know, change it up in there, but I do think changes could have been made that haven't been made. But luckily, they did have one chill out zone, which is cool. They had beanbags in there. They had fidget toys, in fact, including fidget spinners. They had blindfolds. They had ear defenders, so just a lot of things. So yeah, that was a really nice touch, just to have that chill out zone there, and just to give people somewhere that if they need to come out of the theatre at any point, they do have somewhere where they can just chill for a little bit before they go back into the theatre and carry on with the performance if they need to, if they're getting a bit overwhelmed or anything. And those fidget toys were really helpful as well, to be fair. I was actually playing with the fidget spinner the whole time whilst I was watching and didn't even realise. That was a really nice touch. But once again, I was unfortunately a little bit disappointed with the lack of changes in the foyer. It was still very overwhelming. But, you know, this is the first relaxed performance Newsies have done, so I feel like if they do another one, those improvements will be made. Okay, so as we were heading in to the auditorium, there were ushers on the door. And the door that we went to, there was a table behind the usher, and on the table was the sensory story. So yeah, I had a little look through the sensory story, which is quite cool to have a first look at it. And it would have been good if they had more dotted around, just so, you know, more people could have a chance to look at it, rather than just being singular on ones with the ushers on the doors. You know, just in case anyone didn't get a chance to read the email and wasn't aware and, you know, needed one during the performance, it would have been useful. Of course, I managed to get my hands on one so I could have a look through it, but it would have been useful to have more. Unfortunately, the performance did start a few minutes late once we were in there and seated, but something that was very helpful was the actors of Snyder and 𝗺𝘁𝘂𝘁𝘁 came out on stage, you know, two of the cast that are in Newsies, and they described a bit about their characters, talked a little bit about what to expect throughout the performance, which is of course really helpful. And as well as this, with Newsies being an immersive production, you do have, as I've mentioned, all the Newsies and the cast running around the theatre for a lot of it and going up and down the stairs that are right next to you, which of course can be a little bit loud. So they did have some of the Newsies run up and down the stairs before the performance started, just to give you a bit of an idea of what that will look and sound like. And this, I was really impressed with that, just because it gives a perfect insight into what you'll be getting during the performance, and it can help a lot just so you know what to expect. And then it got to the performance itself, which I was very, very surprised with. You know, I've seen the performance before, so I knew a little bit what to expect, but I was really impressed with what they did throughout the performance. So to start off with, the sound level was absolutely amazing. You know, it was adjusted such a good amount where it's not too loud at all, but it's not too quiet either. You can still hear everything that's happening, but it's just not overwhelming. And, you know, they smashed it with the audio levels. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, with, you know, where you're being seated, you've got lighting at all different angles and that kind of thing. So you had some overhead lighting which was shining right down at us. So maybe, you know, even sunglasses or a cap or something provided by the theatre would have been useful, just to avoid that. Because of course, we can't expect them to move the whole lighting rig or whatever. But, you know, there's just small adjustments that could have been made with that, as I said, with providing, you know, caps or sunglasses or something, as well as these fidget toys and ear defenders, which just could have made that a little bit easier on the eyes and less overstimulating, or less stimulating. One of the two. Going back to the sensory story again quickly, here it is again, just in case you forgot what it looked like. There was a part in the sensory story where it warned you that at the end of the Seize the Day number, there was some pyro that would come off. You know, there's a camera that flashes, and it produces, you know, a big flash and a bang, and it warns you about that. And of course, that can be something that's very distressing, but, you know, it's just to prepare you for, you know, this is what's going to happen, so you know what to expect. And it got to the end, and, you know, that whether or not it was meant to not go off or not, you know, the pyro didn't happen. So it just feels like if you're not going to set the pyro off, you know, I get the intentions were good with not setting it off, but I just don't think it's useful to worry people about it if it's not going to happen. It just would have added an unnecessary level of stress to going to the theatre in the first place. But, you know, maybe it was a complete accident, so feel free to correct me, Newsies, thank you. But yeah, as I said, the overall production in general is really good, and it was definitely a step in the right direction. The main changes I would have made were just in the foyer, and maybe providing extra things just to make sure that audience members aren't getting overwhelmed, and there's, you know, no chance of, or a lower chance of that happening. Unfortunately, there was also an event going on at the stadium that day, so, you know, coming out, of course, very, very busy down near Wembley Stadium. We were directed, you know, the best way to go where it would be a little bit less busy, but of course that's not something that could have been easily avoided. So, you know, I don't really blame Newsies for that at all. But yeah, overall, thank you so much, Newsies, for inviting me down. It was definitely a step in the right direction. Once again, very good for a first relaxed performance. I was impressed. And if there are any other relaxed performances before Newsies closed, I look forward to seeing what they're like. So definitely check Newsies out if you haven't already, and remember to subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on so you don't miss an upload, leave a thumbs up, and I'll see you lot in the next one.